Mesopotamia was a region between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in the Middle East, constituting the greater part of modern Iraq. The region's location and fertility gave rise to settlements some 10,000 years ago, and it became the cradle of some of the world's earliest civilizations and the birthplace of writing. It was first settled by the Sumerians, who were succeeded by the Akkadians and later by the Babylonians. Successive peoples came to dominate the region until the rise of the Persian Achaemenid dynasty in the 6th century BC. The Achaemenids were overthrown by Alexander the Great in the early 4th century BC, and Mesopotamia was ruled by the Seleucid dynasty from c. 312 BC until the mid-2nd century BC, when it became part of the Parthian Empire. In the 7th century, the region was conquered by Muslim Arabs. The region's importance declined after the Mongol invasion in 1258. Rule by the Ottoman Empire over most of the region began in the 16th century. The area became a British mandate in 1920. The following year Iraq was established there. The name Mesopotamia comes from a Greek word meaning between rivers, referring to the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, but the region can be broadly defined to include the area that is now eastern Syria, southeastern Turkey, and most of Iraq. The region was the center of a culture whose influence extended throughout the Middle East and as far as the Indus Valley, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. Mesopotamia, south of Arkansas and about 70 miles, or 110 kilometers, west of Baghdad, on the Euphrates and the bend of the Tigris below Smar, about 70 miles north-northwest of Baghdad, is flat alluvial land. Between Baghdad and the mouth of the Shah el-Arab, the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates, where it empties into the Persian Gulf, there is a difference in height of only about 100 feet. As a result of the slow flow of the water, there are heavy deposits of silt, and the riverbeds are raised. Consequently, the rivers often overflow their banks, and may even change their course, when they are not protected by high dikes. In recent times they have been regulated above Baghdad by the use of escape channels with overflow reservoirs. The extreme south is a region of extensive marshes and reed swamps, hars, which, probably since early times, have served as an area of refuge for oppressed and displaced peoples. The supply of water is not regular, as a result of the high average temperatures and a very low annual rainfall. The ground in the plain of latitude 35 degrees north is hard and dry and unsuitable for plant cultivation for at least 8 months in the year. Consequently, agriculture without risk of crop failure, which seems to have begun in the higher rainfall zones and in the hilly borders of Mesopotamia in the 10th millennium BC, began in Mesopotamia itself, the real heart of the civilization, only after artificial irrigation had been invented, bringing water to large stretches of territory through a widely branching network of canals. Since the ground is extremely fertile and, with irrigation and the necessary drainage, will produce in abundance, southern Mesopotamia became a land of plenty that could support a considerable population. The cultural superiority of North Mesopotamia, which may have lasted until about 4000 BC, was finally overtaken by the south when the people there had responded to the challenge of their situation. The availability of raw materials is a historical factor of great importance, as is the dependence on those materials that had to be imported. In Mesopotamia, agricultural products and those from stock breeding, fisheries, date palm cultivation, and reed industries, in short, grain, vegetables, meat, leather, wool, horn, fish, dates, and reed and plant fiber products were available in plenty and could easily be produced in excess of home requirements to be exported. There are bitumen springs at Ht. 90 miles northwest of Baghdad, on the Euphrates, these of Herodotus. On the other hand, wood, stone, and metal were rare or even entirely absent. The date palm, virtually the national tree of Iraq, yields a wood suitable only for rough beams and not for finer work. Stone is mostly lacking in southern Mesopotamia, although limestone is quarried in the desert about 35 miles to the west and Mosul marble is found not far from the Tigris in its middle reaches. Metal can only be obtained in the mountains, and the same is true of precious and semi-precious stones. Consequently, southern Mesopotamia in particular was destined to be a land of trade from the start. Only rarely could empires, extending over a wider area, guarantee themselves imports by plundering or by subjecting neighboring regions. The raw material that epitomizes Mesopotamian civilization is clay, in the almost exclusively mud brick architecture and in the number and variety of clay figurines and pottery artifacts. Mesopotamia bears the stamp of clay as does no other civilization, and nowhere in the world but in Mesopotamia and the regions over which its influence was diffused was clay used as the vehicle for writing. Such phrases as cuneiform civilization, cuneiform literature, and cuneiform law can apply only where people had had the idea of using soft clay not only for bricks and jars and for the jar stoppers on which a seal could be impressed as a mark of ownership, but also as the vehicle for impress signs to which established meanings were assigned, an intellectual achievement that amounted to nothing less than the invention of writing. If you settled in Mesopotamia, where would you live and why?